Ladies and gentlemen, it is by far one of my favorite times of the year as the Dallas Cowboys just made another huge trade, and in my opinion I think this trade is a little bit more significant than the one they made a week ago. So we're gonna break down everything for you guys in addition to some moves that the Texans made and what this means for the rest of the NFL. Before, subscribe that turns on our notifications on this channel. TKS. Will, I gotta admit I've been a huge fan of the Dallas Cowboys offseason so far as a Cowboy fan. I have a tremendous amount of appreciation for some of the very difficult decisions we've made and some of the more intelligent decisions we made. For example, if you recall the very beginning of the offseason, we had Stephen Jones coming out here and telling us that Dak Prescott might possibly get extended primarily for salary cap reasons. The Cowboys didn't end up doing that, they ended up restructuring Dak Prescott's deal. Now could this mean that Dak Prescott is going to be reevaluated for the future? Within the next year or so, quite possibly, but we already saw the Cowboys make some very difficult decisions, and as a reward they were able to keep some of their other players that were very valuable to the team but may not have had that household name that we are used to over the past 6 to 7 years now. What am I talking about? Well, the Dallas Cowboys let go of a player that was a franchise cornerstone for them. For the past 7 years now. Was he the same player over the past couple years? Most definitely not, but without a doubt this human being was the face of the Dallas Cowboys from 2016 and on, and was probably the heart and soul of the team. And if you also remember, the Cowboys front office gave him a ridiculous extension primarily for that reason. They considered him to be the heart and soul of the team. I'm talking about Ezekiel Elliott. So when the Cowboys released Ezekiel Elliott, wasn't necessarily shocked, but typical Jerry Jones fashion would indicate that he would do anything it would take to keep Zeke on the team, even if it means a reduced contract. That didn't even happen. He was just let go completely. Now it's really funny because I saw this one post on Twitter about Emmitt Smith saying that the Cowboys did Ezekiel Elliott dirty. This was on an Instagram post where the Cowboys posted this picture of Ezekiel Elliott on draft day, commemorating his time with the team, and then you had Emmitt Smith saying this: "Wow, this is amazing to me, no disrespect to Malik Davis, but our starting running back is gone and his backup has a broken leg. The NFL stands for not for long. Everyone else go get your money because they have no love for you. It don't make sense, and this is one of those things that make you shake your head. Thank you, Z, for giving everything you have, including playing injured all of last year. This is why the NFL stands for not for the law. Everybody else go get your money because they have no love for you." Look, man, on one hand, again, Dallas Cowboy fan here through and through, huge fan of Ezekiel Elliott. I think even if he played without being injured, and if he had like say an 1,100-yard rushing season, I still think the Cowboys would have moved on from him just from his cap hit alone. I mean, we've shown you this chart so many times at this point that we're not going to go through each and every player like we usually do. But this is the Super Bowl winning leading rusher and their base salary since 2009. If you notice on this chart, there isn't a single player that has a higher base salary than $2.5 million, and that's Percy Harvin in 2013, and we know that he wasn't the starting running back for the Seattle Seahawks that year. He was just the leading rusher in the Super Bowl that the Seahawks won. On average, could see that each and every one of these players makes anywhere from $585,000 in 2015 C.J. Anderson all the way to $2 million. Ezekiel Elliott was making $15 million a year annually, and this is why I have some reservations as to what Emmitt Smith is saying here, because you can't say that the Cowboys didn't have love for Ezekiel Elliott, because Ezekiel Elliott is the second highest paid running back of all time. It goes Adrian Peterson at $100 million and now Ezekiel Elliott at $70.9 million. Look, maybe he continues his career for sure, but I don't necessarily think the Cowboys did him dirty or anything of that sort, and this move allowed a lot of other moves as well. For example, Cowboys were able to sign Donovan Wilson to a 3-year $24 million contract. They were able to make a pretty significant trade for Stephon Gilmore, giving up a 5th round pick for the 2019 Defensive Player of the Year, who performed remarkably this past year, who should be a fantastic foil to Trayvon Diggs and Dan Quinn's defense. When you also add in Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, the fact that the Cowboys were able to bring back Leighton Vander Esch as well, and I'd say that they made the right decision here. But there was also one question: the Cowboys have been pursuing Odell Beckham Jr. and have been linked to DeAndre Hopkins repeatedly this offseason. So there was This huge question about what they were going to do in order to get themselves additional help on offense in order to get Dak Prescott, that additional weapon who's going to complement CeeDee Lamb on the offense. Was it going to be Obj? Was it going to be D-Hop? Was it going to be a wide receiver that the Cowboys drafted? Seems like we have the answer to that question, and to be honest, I'm pretty satisfied with the answer to this question. So in our Kansas City Chiefs, I was thinking on Saturday, and we discussed the fact that they were linked to Laramie Tunsil. Apparently they were potentially trying to swing a trade for Laramie Tunsil in order to fill the void at left tackle that would be left behind by Orlando Brown Jr. It seems like the Houston Texans had significantly different plans. You see, the Texans were in a very similar situation that the Cowboys were in last offseason. They have a remarkable wide receiver, a criminally underrated wide receiver, might I add, that they need to move on from in order to maintain the rest of their roster, and as a result they might be willing to give this wide receiver up for pennies on the dollar, very much like what the Cowboys did last year when they traded Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns, a move that Dallas Cowboys fans universally loathed, but they didn't necessarily have a choice because the Cowboys had to pay Ezekiel Elliott's